Margaret, could you come on now? As some of those mediums are aging, and the responsibility and the watering them, would you do things differently? I know we get a good response on the image, but I mean, I see an awful lot of cars going into those things, you know, especially those. Would you do it that way again?
I would change a lot of the species that are planted out there. Definitely.
Something that's more tolerant, something that's less maintenance?
Yes. Go for the low maintenance, more native species. And reduce, you know, whoever's out there, their maintenance, you know, having to go in and out of shrub masses and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot that we could do to kind of reduce the maintenance.
Okay.
Let me just point out, Margaret Momberger did not design those medians.
No,
Okay, I just wanted you to be for sure that you understood what.
No, I understand she did not, but I'm saying, you know, we draw from her knowledge.
Today, right.
And if you had an open palette and you had the money, what would you do differently? That's all I'm asking. Sometime when you got nothing better to do, lay it out.
Well, one of the items that we have instructed Warren to do, we've got so much dead vegetation along the Dunlawton corridor, is that those items have to be removed. We've got some areas where you've noticed around the Clyde Morris area where we've got some grass that we haven't put back in. We've got an irrigation problem at that location, which we've got to get the irrigation system back working. What happened is there's a valve that's 18 foot deep that we've had a problem with. And that, matter of fact, it is shut, and that's why we don't have any water there. So,
How many feet?
18 feet. And so we're having to redo.
Turn it on or off?
He doesn't. That's the problem. And so we're having to come back and reestablish the the line underneath Dunlawton in order to get irrigation back to those medians. And we're very concerned about those conditions, so those particular areas. But we've already had this discussion because, quite honestly, you know, it drives the cost up of having to maintain the shrubbery and things of that area. We believe that the Nova Road project looks very, very good. I'm not talking about putting those types of palm trees along the thing, because FDOT would not allow that in that area. But it's easier to maintain for our contract because basically it's mulch and grass that they're cutting, and they're having to come in and trim out the crepe myrtles, and that's basically what they're doing, and that's a lot less intensive maintenance than what they're currently doing along Dunlawton.
Are we moving away from St. Augustine grass?
We had looked at some potentials to do it. We had talked with Margaret about looking what the Orlando Aviation Authority is doing on their property. They're changing out to a different type of grass material, or whatever they're calling it, but it is supposed to lower their maintenance costs and lower their mowing costs. We did a test on it out in front of fire station number 5, and then we got interrupted when we put in the traffic signals, and so that one didn't turn out to be a good test. But we've asked her to go back and look at that type of material because the Aviation Authority was saying that they were doing it in order to lower their mowing cost, because that particular species cut basically in several different, you didn't have to cut it as frequently. I forget the frequency, Margaret.
Basically, it's more of a plant, a ground cover that looks like a sod, and so you cut it twice a year.
What's the watering requirements on something like that?
It's much lower than, especially a St. Augustine. It's comparable to like a Bermuda sod.
Really?
Okay. So in this case, didn't they do some out at the pavilion?
They have it out at the pavilion. They planted it as individual plants, so it hasn't all meshed together where it really looks like sod yet. Palm Coast has used it extensively. They're very happy with it. And over on the West Coast, where they really have some water issues, they've used it and they're really happy with it. They use it on all their medians in St. Pete.
Good. Question. These adopted, we got any signs that says adopted streets out there anymore?
No, we took those down.
But they're not adopting anything, they're not doing anything.
No, even when they did, it was just a advertising campaign. They never showed up. Very few showed up, other than Joyce. Joyce was religious,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we've removed all of them.
Volunteerism doesn't exist in this world anymore.
Let me just say, conversely, what we learned from the program, when we moved to the parks program, we set out some very extensive guidance of what was expected if they came in and adopted the park and get their name up on the sign. And up to this point, the groups that have gone to Bushman have lived up to their portion of the deal. There was some Girl Scouts have adopted a portion of the park, and also, if you remember, the Lions Club, and they have done an extremely good job. They have the volunteers in that park, so we don't need to paint all of it that way, because we do have some good examples of some individuals who take it very, very seriously, and they do an extremely good job.
But we used to have some on Dunlop, they're not there anymore.
US 1, Causeway, they were everywhere.
And they didn't work.
And a
They
lot
didn't
of
do anything.
some did show up. I'm not going to
Yeah.
say a lot. Some did show up, but most of them was just an advertising campaign.
Okay. Good, Bob?
Okay, well, a couple things, and you're right, Ken and Warren, on the look that it does project for our citizens is extremely important, and they do a great job, the people that we have. So I don't mind saying that I have kind of questioned the amount of money we're spending on mowing contracts, so I'm not going to back away from saying things in the past. However, from what I'm gathering here is Ken and Warren both are pretty much advocating that we extend the contract for at least one more year, which would be the end of the contract. Now, the contract is over at the end of March. Is that pretty much?
It's March 31st is the contract date. And so all of the contractors have indicated they will extend without CPI. And so this would be, the third year?
This would be it.
Without any type of increase. So they have actually come back and said, yes, we understand the economic conditions and we're willing to do that. So the answer to your question is yes. Next December 31st, we would have, so about this time next year, the council would be receiving the bids for mowing contractors this time next year, if we extend it for one more.
And being February 15th, to come up with any type of comprehensive bidding process at this point is pretty much a stretch as far as getting the paperwork and the bidding and all that business out there. And here's where I'm going with this, with what I'm thinking here. That, yeah, I'm willing personally for my one vote to support moving ahead with renewing for